Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine. Today, we are welcome with Pretty Boy Smooth. How we doing, man?
What's the deal? What's going on? I'm feeling real good, man. Appreciate you having me.
I'm glad we can make this work. Last week things popped up, we couldn't make it happen, but we are here now. I'm glad we can get this thing rolling, get the ball going. Before we get started, is there any social media links or anything like that you want to let the viewers know where they can find the latest Pretty Boy Smooth action?
Yeah, so the easiest way to contact me is through my link tree, prettyboysmooth.com. I have everything on there from my social media handles to my merch sites, Wikipedia page, highlight reels, all that. I'm very locked in on there. Yeah, just follow me on social media. I also have a Patreon account that you can subscribe to. The link is on that link tree as well. I do a lot of different vlogs on my travels and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just very easy to tap into my content.
Great. I like the accessibility. It makes this easy. Something I'm learning myself as a podcaster.
Yeah.
Seeing as how we are the I Love Wrestling podcast, I'm gonna start with, when did you maybe start watching wrestling or fall in love with it?
So for me, it started very early. So my dad worked four jobs, maybe five when I was a kid. So he was always like gone during the day. And he would get home pretty late at night. And the only thing that we could really bond over was watching Monday Night Raw because it would go on till 11. So he'd get home at 10. I'd already be watching. We'd watch that together. And then my grandma would babysit me a lot. And what she did was she would have me and my cousin in the room, and she loved The Rock and she loved Kane. So we kind of just grew up watching wrestling, playing with the toys, doing the moves on each other. Even they said, don't try this at home. So yeah, I mean, I grew up only knowing about WWE, and then I had my stint with sports and college athletics, and then I kind of circled back when I found out about the independent wrestling scene, and here we are.
Who were like your favorites growing up or your biggest maybe inspirations later on?
Uh, I really like DX. I really loved watching Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Their antics and stuff kind of fit the narrative of like a New York kid that was just getting into mischief all the time. And my favorite wrestler at the time was Test. Like I really loved Test, like his entrance music. When I started wrestling, I tried to emulate some of the things that he did. So he was a big influence for me. And if we go a little further back, I was a big fan of Razor Ramon. Like I would just watch his stuff on like YouTube and whatnot. So that's mainly the main ones I'd say.
Do you still keep like pieces of tests repertoire in your in what you do in the ring?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of found myself in terms of what works best for me. And
Yeah.
he was a big man that was fairly athletic, so we kind of have similar traits. So there may be a few moves that like I take from him, but I find ways to do it in my own way. So it's not like a carbon copy. Like I never wanted to be like the spitting image of another wrestler. You know what I mean? So I do take a little bit from his move set, and I also really love the colors purple, black, and yellow because of Razor Ramon. So I did kind of brand myself that way. But yeah, that'd be my response to that one, I guess.
Growing up throughout like high school, middle school, you obviously partaked in sports. Like, was it football, basketball? Did you do any wrestling or anything like that?
So I started out doing martial arts.
Ooh,
We can let this cat out. So it's
that's
driving me.
badass.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started out doing martial arts, and then I hit an age where my dad was like, all right, you have to pick one or the other, martial arts or basketball, whatever the case may be. So I did martial arts for like 5, 6 years, and then I picked up basketball. And that's what kind of took me through college and things like that. I'm not really an outdoors person. Like I did one football tryout and it was just too hot and I just did not like it. And then I tried baseball, and again, outdoors, it just didn't fit for me. But basketball felt like I don't want to say I had a natural talent for it, but I was always tall. Like for perspective, I was 6'6" at 12 years old. So it was kind of like,
Damn.
hey, you should do this. Everything was pushing me towards. So I always felt like I needed to play. And fortunately enough, it paid for college, it paid for my master's degree and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a worthy investment.
Can I ask what kind of martial arts you partake in?
Yeah, so the style was called Ketsugen. It's kind of like Japanese. A
Okay.
lot of it was based on like strikes and stuff like that. So I would compare it to like kickboxing to a degree. Yeah.
Okay. What like ultimately made you decide to start training for professional wrestling?
So I was in my what was it, my second year of grad school. I had finished playing basketball. I was going through some weird stuff in my life at that point, and one of I had a grad assistantship, so like they were paying for my tuition. I was like working at the school, like running the fitness center. So a girl that I was working with knew I was a fan of wrestling, and she just so happened to be good friends with a girl who was dating a local wrestler. Big League John McChesney. He went by Fabulous John McChesney back in the day. He was really big in like that Ohio Midwest scene.
Okay.
And she invited me to a show. And that very first show, he's wrestling Matt Hardy. So I'm like losing my mind because I've never seen independent wrestling. I never thought I'd be able to see Matt Hardy in an affordable environment. So I started going to those monthly shows. One night I got really drunk and asked him what does he think about me like learning how to ref? Because at that point, I don't know how wrestling works. I'm 24. I feel like maybe I'm too old to start this. You know what I mean? Like I don't know much about how it works. And he's just like, no, like you're way too big. You need to try out and train and stuff. So John McChesney's the one that ushered me into start training. And that summer when I graduated, I just went right into wrestling training out there.
How long did you actually like train before you would make a debut?
I trained about a year, but the problem was they didn't have like an official training school.
Okay.
So I only got to train on show days. So it was pretty much once a month. So
Oh,
we'd get to the venue at 8 a.m. We'd set up the ring. We'd train for 3 to 4 hours, go eat, and then come back and do security for the show and stuff like that. And I did that for about a year. And then I debuted for that company at Pro Wrestling Rampage at the time. And I still felt like I wanted to do more, you know, like when I played basketball, we got to train every day, but we didn't have a ring to go to. So then I sought out some other schools and then I started training at AIW in Cleveland, Ohio under Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. So I would drive out to Cleveland from Erie twice a week. And I did that for several years. And then I just started being a sponge and going everywhere. So when Johnny got signed, I started training at Grapplers Anonymous in Buffalo under Pepper Parks, the Blade. And when
okay.
he got signed, I started bouncing around. So I trained in St. Louis for a little bit. I've trained in Dayton with Sammy Callahan and Ace Austin. Like I kind of try to bounce around wherever I can.
Do
So
you think that's helped you, like learning from all these different individuals that's made it in different aspects of wrestling?
oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing for me was that I didn't get a lot of training from people that knew how, in my opinion, to train a big man. You know, like I'm not a cruiserweight. I don't wrestle a hybrid style. Like I'm a giant, and I play to that. So my very first years in wrestling, I was trying to do a little bit of everything, and I'm coming up in the era where you have Keith Lee and Donovan Dijak doing these amazing, incredible things. And for the longest, I felt like I had to find a way to match that as opposed to be authentic to myself. So as the years go by, like I keep making new friends and networks and mentors in the wrestling community. And it was a time where I had a match with Sugar Dunkerton, and he kind of taught me how to work to my size a little bit. And then I had an opportunity working for GCW for a show wrestling John Davis, and he was another guy that kind of took me under his wing and really taught me the game and the ropes and how to play to my size. And like that's worked out for me tremendously at this point.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the group, the Riot Squad, and how you guys came together?
So the Riot Squad was comprised of me, my trainer, and one of my best friends now. I'm actually going to be a groomsman in his wedding. Kobe Red. We all were in the same training class together, and we really excelled. You know, we both come from collegiate backgrounds and whatnot, and we kind of wanted to do something together. So my trainer, Aaron Draven, presented the idea to us, and we kind of just went with it. And he was very instrumental for me. I mean, obviously he got us booked for PWR where we trained at, but he got me my first bookings in Pittsburgh and West Virginia and stuff like that. So it was a very exciting experience. Definitely getting our feet wet. Some of those matches I don't want to watch back because I'm a completely different person at this point. But it was definitely a good time. We actually did a Riot Squad reunion last year, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was like last year at Revenge Pro Wrestling. We did it one time. That was pretty fun.
Do you have like a favorite moment or a standout moment with the group at all?
Um, for me, it would have to be the car rides, just because they say like car rides are like free seminars because you get so much information when you're riding with like a vet or whatnot. But a lot of times we were just clowning. Like we were in the car just like messing around, just making jokes and stuff. And like I would try to fall asleep and somebody would throw some shit at me and wake me up. So it was just a lot of fun, like dude moments, I guess you could say.
Okay, okay. I like that because, like,
Yeah.
most guys would pick something like this one match we had wherever, but the car rides is probably where the
Well,
genuine stuff happens.
well, yeah. I mean, like when you're in school, you don't remember the classes you took or your teachers half the time. You remember like the moments you had there. You know, like that's part of
Exactly.
the journey that makes it like fun. You know, so yeah.
In 2016 at AIW, you took on Eddie Kingston twice, once in a fatal four way, once singles. What was that experience like wrestling Eddie at that time? And was you able to learn anything from wrestling Eddie?
Oh, absolutely. So it's crazy how that happened, actually. I was never supposed to be in that four-way match. It was supposed to be BJ Whitmer at the time, but he had like some obligations. So they ended up slotting me in there. And I felt comfortable immediately because I was in there with all veterans I knew would take care of me. But I bonded with Eddie because he's like a New York guy that has like radical energy and stuff. And he reminded me of people I grew up with. So like it was easy to talk a language that we understood and whatnot. And I definitely learned a lot based on how he wanted me to present myself in that match. And then when I got the opportunity to work him in a singles, like I was under 10 matches in when that happened. Like it was insane. So under 10 singles matches, I'd say. I'm pretty sure me and Riot Squad had tag matches and whatnot. But I still am in contact with Eddie to this day. When I had my WWE tryout and I was in Florida, he called me and we had a little conversation to check in on me. And he's rehabbing right now, and I hope he comes back strong to AEW.
Definitely, definitely. Was it like, a lot of people said like that era of Eddie was somebody that was he took no BS. Is that
Yeah,
something that's true? Was Eddie like
yeah, but the thing is, the thing with Eddie, in my opinion, he's a stand-up guy, right?
yeah,
So, like, obviously, if you do something that causes him to like put a boundary up or confront you or have a conversation, then like that's kind of on you. Like, I never had any issues with him because like there's a mutual respect there, and like I said, like I'm from New York, I've grown up with guys like that, and I know how to handle situations like that. Now, as far as other people or what may have happened before I met him, I can't speak to that because I can only give you my experience, but every
yeah,
experience I've had with him was very solid, very genuine. He's not like an ass kisser, which is what I respect because he's authentic to himself, and that inspires me to make me feel like I can be authentic to myself and still find my way in this journey of pro wrestling where you feel like you have to worry about the politics of it and things like that.
100%. You mentioned WWE tryout. How did that come about, and what was like that experience like going and trying to see if you can test the waters in the WWE?
Yeah, so I remember like getting the email and like my eyes like swelled up because I was just so like fired up. Um, I you can sign up for their like recruitment page, I believe it is. So like I would like send them stuff here and there, but seeing as one of my trainers was Johnny Gargano and like my name came up and he vouched for me, I think that helped me get in there.
Okay.
Um, it was a good experience. it was very fundamental based. Like they wanted to see like how you move and things like that, as opposed to like what you would really think is going on in terms of, oh, I have to have this down pack and whatnot. Because there's a lot of stuff they could just teach you down there. It's just a matter of like, do you fit the mold of what they may want? You know, like there were guys doing magic tricks. There were guys that did unique stuff in those promos and things like that. And it made me feel good because I also it gave me confirmation. Like, so being in shape for professional wrestling is completely different from like other sports. You know what I'm saying? So there are people in my tryout that were bodybuilders and models and things like that, and they look amazing. They had this aesthetic, but we're doing some of these drills, and like there's somebody throwing up in a trash can, or there's somebody that just can't finish it. So like knowing that like I trained my ass off and like I was ready to do all that stuff felt great. I just wish I was maybe 40 or 50 pounds heavier when I was there because I was 235 and now I'm 280, so I look completely different. And I think that may have changed some things for me, but you know, life is life. You just keep going.
Fair enough. You know, you brought up Colby Red earlier.
Yeah.
What brought you two together to form the upper echelon?
So that was kind of a spin off the Riot Squad stuff. Like we wanted to go out on our own and get more bookings and whatnot. And
Okay.
again, we were always together. We trained together, we'd hang out together. So we're still like trying to find ourselves. And even when I started training at AIW, he came up with me. So we didn't do it at AIW. We were singles wrestlers, and he was in a different group. But like where we could, we would still do it. Like I think we went as far as to North Carolina to wrestle, and like we had some like awesome trips, and we just had the same mindset about things in terms of if we're gonna do this, we're gonna take it seriously. We're gonna take care of our bodies. We're gonna work hard. We're gonna train. You know what I mean? And like-minded people think alike. So we're just like let's figure this out. So that's why we
Do
kind of started out with it.
do you two still talk to this day?
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be in his wedding in August.
Okay. Okay.
He took a different direction. Like right now, he like he got to a point where he realized he didn't love wrestling like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to like hold me back or like waste his time and stuff like that. And the kid's a genius. Like he has a degree in mechanical engineering. Like he's doing very well for himself. So like I care more about his mental well-being and like him being happy with where he's at in life than like trying to nudge him to come back to pro wrestling. He had took a stint off, and then when I was at Rise Wrestling, he came back so me and him could do like a program together, which was awesome. Like getting to like wrestle him like so many years later, you know. So he's doing well, and like I said, we talk very frequently. I'm going to be a groomsman at his wedding. I'm excited for his future.
Do you think having that little feud or whatever you want to call it at Rise helped maybe end off his career?
Yeah, I think that was kind of like some of the closure he wanted because he wanted to work with the guy that he came up with.
Okay.
And like we push each other. So it was like a very physical match. I'm sure it's on my YouTube. If not, I'll find it and put it on there. But we just beat the hell out of each other. But it was awesome. It was fun, and we both were very satisfied with the outcome on that.
Upon like doing my research, one of the coolest things and maybe most unique things that I noticed about your career was your tag team with Hornswoggle.
Yeah,
Um, and the team name Twins threw me
yeah.
completely off, but I love it. How did it feel to work with Swoggle, win the tag team titles? And do you have any fun Hornswoggle stories?
So the way that came about, at AIW, there were two promoters, John Thorne and Chandler Biggins. Chandler Biggins was the biggest fan of like big guy, little guy stuff. And he was the guy that I would talk to every day at AIW that would like check on me after matches, and we had good conversation and stuff. And unfortunately, right before I went to my WWE tryout, like I went to go see him because he's in the hospital, and I get back and he's passed away. So it's tough on everyone there. We're all kind of in mourning. And one of the things that Thorne did as like a memento to him was put me and Swoggle in a tag team. And it was a surprise to me because I didn't find out until that day that we were doing it. In terms of things I've learned from Swaggle, I think he helped me learn to not take myself so seriously because a lot of times when you look at like big black wrestlers, we're supposed to be like the stereotype, the giant that's just like a diesel that just stands there, it's quiet, that only like that doesn't cut promos. You know what I'm saying? Like he allowed me to kind of find myself in that and like kind of be myself because there's multiple facets to my personality. Like I can be funny and have fun and be entertaining, and then I can also flip a switch and take somebody's head off. So I think working with him helped me kind of figure that out. And then we did that tag for like 8 months. So it was really cool. It's definitely a fun fact. If you got the picture of me and him hold up the titles, I can send it to you. That's an awesome photo. So yeah, it was a good time.
I want to touch on you mentioned like the stereotype thing.
Yeah,
Do you think guys like Moose help break that mold of the
absolutely, man.
stereotype?
I think a lot of it's broken at this point. I mean, when you look
Yes.
at the New Day, like they're running like with Big E. Like you look at Moose, you look at Keith Lee when he was on TV, he would speak with like a different demeanor and stuff like that. And like it's awesome to see the different facets of people when they're not just put in a box, if that makes sense. And for me, I struggle with that a lot because when you look at a playboy as a wrestling character, you usually think of somebody that's either a comedy actor or very flamboyant, and I'm neither. You know what I mean? My character is essentially me in college. You know what I'm saying? Like a ladies' man that gets fly and knows how to dress and stuff, but if you say the wrong thing to him, it triggers him and he can snap. And people relate to that because that's realistic. That's
Yeah.
like Will Smith and Bad Boys, just with like an urban New York hip hop flavor to it. So, or like Shaft, you know what I'm saying? The problem was there's a lot of promoters on the indies that only look through things from one box. And to their point, it's a casting call essentially. They may want a specific character or whatever, and I may not fit that void or whatever they're looking for. But my goal as an independent wrestler is to be authentic to myself and make it in the way that I am. So like I've been fortunate enough that working for EC3 and those guys at Exodus, he's allowed me to be myself and branch off that way. Like there was one show where I sat on the throne and beautiful women just fed me grapes the entire time. And like it got over so well. Like I didn't have to wrestle, but the crowd, like the fans, they got it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of indie promotions forget about those kind of things. They think about just like work rate match. They don't think about the storytelling, the emotional roller coaster, the characters. You know what I mean? So I think all that encompasses like where I'm headed and like breaking those stereotypes.
Okay. I'm gonna jump right back to Swoggle.
Yeah.
You and Swoggle teamed with Bob Orton for an evening.
Yes.
What was that match like? What was it like teaming with Cowboy Bob?
I mean, to be honest with you, dude, like I'm a super like Randy Orton mark. So like when I realized I was teaming with his dad, I was kind of nervous and didn't want to bother him because like when I was coming up, it was that era of wrestling where it's like you don't want to be a mark in the locker room and take photos with bigger wrestlers because we're all like in the same pool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one of my regrets was not like picking his brain or taking a picture with him and having those conversations. But it was a cool experience. It's just I wasn't fully present the way I wish I would have been, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you brought up the like going in the locker room and maybe being hesitant to take pictures with legend? Do you think that categorizing people as marks has dwindled at all? Because like I'm seeing a blurred lines as a podcaster.
For sure.
Like
I
like I don't know how to articulate my question, but go ahead.
I feel like wrestlers are wrestlers, and if I'm in a position where I'm across from like John Cena, right? Like I feel like there's a way to say like, hey, like I appreciate what you do. I'm a fan of your work, and have a conversation with him as opposed to like, oh damn, like I don't want to bother him. Because like if we're in the locker room together, we're here for a purpose, right? So like I feel like a lot's changed with the culture of the backstage stuff. Some of it good, some of it not so good, but like now people are more open to taking those pictures and having those conversations. And honestly, I feel a lot of it, as morbid as it sounds, I feel a lot of that has come from like death. You know, like when like a famous wrestler dies and you never got to tell them how much you appreciate their work and stuff like that. Like that's when I saw a movement of wrestlers saying, take the picture. You know what I mean? So yeah, like if I when I started indie wrestling, like I said, I didn't know much about it. If I knew how big of a figure Eddie Kingston was, and I viewed him like that, then maybe I wouldn't have had those conversations or have him in my phone right now. You know what I mean? So like I just try to be confident in myself and just be genuine. And if it's there, it's there. If they're busy or whatever, I'll leave them alone. You know, like you just kind of feel out the situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I can like kind of equivalent to podcasting, something I'm learning, especially going to shows. Um, like before the shows, I'm not bugging nobody. During
Yeah,
the show, not bugging nobody. Now afterwards, if there's a moment where somebody's by themselves or walking through, maybe I'll stop by and talk to them. But like, I'm trying, I'm learning to weed out the difference between um, being perceived as a mark and being a podcaster, if that makes sense. Because there's a
yeah. I
very
think
thin line, especially in my area. There's a lot of podcasters. So, like, trying to, and fans. And up here,
yeah,
I don't know about down there, but like up here, the shows are very like afterwards, people will hang out for like an hour, 2 hours, and just talk to wrestlers. And like, there's not really a line or a barrier between them. Everybody's just mingling. So it's trying to figure out a way to be professional and let these guys know that, hey, like I appreciate what you do and I'd even like to talk to you about it is something I'm
yeah.
learning.
Well, I think you do a good job at it. Like, I can't tell you. So, here's my biggest issue when it comes to podcasting. I feel there are a lot of podcasters that don't understand that this is still work. Like, we're on the clock, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am here as Pretty Boy Smooth. So, it's like you can't be mad if somebody wants to be compensated for that, or like they don't want to talk about certain stuff, or they don't, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
Yes.
people have to present themselves in a professional way to be treated respectful and professional. Like I've gotten emails about somebody want me to do their podcast, and I'll send them the same thing I sent you, and then I'll get yelled at because, oh, I'm not paying you to do this or that. I'm like, okay, well, you have 5 views and you want 45 minutes of my time that I can be spending in the gym or film studying or creating content and stuff like that. So no, I'm not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and if you're genuine, like you'll build a relationship and the wrestlers will like you. You know, I think the problem is when people try to like overstep. Like for me, like the biggest struggle I had was I was trying to make friends instead of fans, and that comes with like pros and cons to it. So if you're like trying to be buddy buddy with all the fans, a lot of times they just want to know what's going on in the locker room. You know what I mean? Or they want something for free, and like the support's not the same as opposed to just being accessible when you're accessible and handle things in a professional manner, and having a certain line of boundary. So I'm kind of like I'm old school with a modern twist, if that makes sense. I'm very situational with the way I walk into things.
Makes sense. It's something I'm trying to learn because,
Yeah,
like, from what I've been able to learn and gather, I honestly like the old school approach. Like,
yeah.
it makes a lot of sense, but trying to make it work with how wrestling is today can be difficult. So, trying to swing it, it's very situational, like you said, and something that's, I mean, if you're a podcaster, it's something you got to learn, I guess.
I mean, we all have to learn it. I mean, a lot of times, especially early on, until I found my way with things. when it came to podcasts, I would find a wrestler that you've already had on there and go talk to them and ask them what their opinion was. Or I will go look at this. Like I've had people that want to do a podcast with me, and then I'll look at their Twitter or their Instagram page, and there's like no posts on there, or they're talking about stuff that have nothing to do with wrestling, and it's drama. And I'm like, I think I'll pass on that because there are some wrestlers that will get involved with that. To each their own. But for me, like I'm authentic to my brand, and I know what I want out there. I know what I don't want out there. So like if they can meet me halfway with that, cool. If not, then like I wish you well in your future endeavors.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna jump back into AIW.
Okay.
You became the AIW Absolute Champion by defeating Tracy Williams.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to be able to win that championship in that company and defend it against guys like MJF?
Um, Working Tracy was definitely a fresh experience for me because his whole wrestling style and mind for wrestling was completely different, and he definitely pushed me to my limit, which I needed and liked. Um, I I don't know, like it was a good experience for what it was. Um, I did enjoy working with MJF, and then that gave me my first Mania weekend booking when I had the main event and defend the title against Tom Lawler, Matt Justice, and Tim Donst. I
That's a
just
hell
look
of
at
a
that.
match.
Yeah, I just look at that time as just a learning experience. Like I didn't fully know how to be a champion, I guess, on my own because I've never had a singles title before that.
Mhm.
Um, I was in there with vets that I had to figure it out. So yeah, I guess I would just call that whole time more of a learning experience than anything.
Okay. What about like how did you feel when you won the world title and against Wardlow at Revenge Pro?
Oh, okay. That was a moment. So Revenge is in Erie,
Hmm.
where like I train, and a lot of those fans have seen me from the days of being a fan, like going to these shows, just being the awkward tall dude in the corner, to working security, to my debut, which was hitting Shane Douglas in the head with a trash can. So like being in front of people that like have seen you grow throughout the times, and then also having my local friends in the area because like I live in Erie, so it was definitely awesome to have a match against a talent like Wardlow who was like really good. Yeah, like it was almost like it was a weird like outer body experience because like we both came to the back. He was like, dude, like I wish we just kept going. Like we were just having fun out there. Like it was awesome. Like everything was there. Like we were in the moment. So like I think that was a great experience. That was ruined shortly after, but
Something like that upon doing research that I really thought was cool is your work with the IWC, the International Wrestling Cartel. It's a company like lately I've been talking with a ton of their guys like Jamie Jameson, Elijah Dean. I've been trying to get Bill Collier on here. But what was your time like at the IWC?
um I wasn't there too long. I did some stuff with Kobe there for upper echelon. Um it's one of those instances like I compare it to college, right? So some people go to college, you're like, oh, I want to get this degree or whatever. But what you really take away sometimes is the network you build. So, like
Hmm.
for instance, like I have a friend that works at a radio station in for that Nick Cannon show, Wildin' Out, and I know somebody that is an analyst in the NBA. You know what I mean? So I was able to meet Shug D there and like a few other wrestlers that play a prominent role in like what I got going on right now. So I would say like that'd be my biggest takeaway from IWC.
Okay.
Yeah.
How different is it working at a company like GCW?
Um, it's one of those things where you kind of got to know the fan base you're working for, you know?
Yeah.
So I think my style of wrestling is for the casual fan. I think I'm the one that can sell tickets to the mom with her three kids, or like the dudes that are like, oh my God, there's a giant on this show. or people that like have never seen wrestling before and they're like, oh my God, like this is like, you know what I'm saying? And then GCW has that, but they also have like that super indie style where they're they're more like moves focused and stuff. And I think some of that's changed a bit, especially with Effie as like the GCW heavyweight title. I think that guy is awesome. He has charisma out the ass and like can find creative ways to do a lot of different things. But yeah, I thank GCW for using me for their for the culture series because it did get me a new platform. It got me experience with some people that I may not have gotten an opportunity to wrestle before. And they're doing some great things right now. You know, like they're all over the place. And I've literally seen them make careers. So like they're definitely up there.
Um, I'm going to dive into your Exodus Pro work right now. This will be our Exodus part of the show. How did you start working with EC3 and Exodus?
So the way that came about, I was supposed to, and I did wrestle EC3 at Rise Wrestling in outside of Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
and that was planned for some later time in the summer. But I'm really good friends with Max the Impaler, who is contracted with NWA, and they had a pay-per-view in Cleveland. And Cleveland's about 90 minutes from where I live. And I'm like, hey, Max, do you mind like if I come up? And they're like, yeah, like I can get you in backstage, hang out, whatever. So go up there and I've met EC3 before, but we never actually like had like a conversation. We hadn't seen each other in years and whatnot. So that small conversation and him seeing me fill a void that he needed at Exodus led to me getting booked there. And it's almost like the rest is history because he kind of saw that I was like a well-oiled machine and kind of knew what I wanted to do. And he found a way to plug that in his system. And he also taught me a lot of things that I'd never thought about when it came to TV style wrestling because Exodus is ran like a TV style product. You know, like it's not just everybody go out there and have like a Dave Meltzer 5-star classic. It's like, what is the business of this match? What are we leading to? What are we trying to accomplish here? And I like that. Like he taught me how to make things mean more and just a lot of little intricacies. And also like a lot of people don't realize this. Like you have EC3 there and like they have agents, right? So you have EC3 there. You have Aaron Stevens, who was a prominent figure on WWE that got over. You know what I mean? So like these are the guys that you have watching your matches, watching your promos, giving you feedback and stuff. And I'm like big on being a sponge and learning as much as I can and seeing how it applies to me. So like it was kind of like the perfect fit for me, honestly. And also I'd say that NWA has a lot of really good talent. Tonight on X, they just debuted like the main event, the main last episode of Looks That Kill. I really enjoy the women's division. I think Kenzie Page and Kylie Page are freaking awesome. Kenzie had a banger with Ruthie J that night. Billy Corgan appreciates big men, so that's another thing that I really appreciate. I got to see the late Jack Stane wrestle and like a few other guys, and also like Exodus has those connections because we were the first of the territories to come back. So I saw a pipeline to lead me to where I wanted to go, which is to get a contract somewhere, you know, as a full-time professional wrestler and see where my career takes me.
Okay. What you brought up the territory system. You would become the Exodus Pro Midwest Heavyweight Champion and defend that all over the place, really, like
Yeah,
literally almost everywhere. What was it like winning the championship and then, roaming the territories?
yeah. So the NWA Midwest Championship was like that run was a beautiful thing for me because it put me in position to show just exactly what I could do because it's a sanctioned NWA title, so it has prestige and value to it already, and I'm the first ever. So I was always under the belief that the man makes the title, not the title makes the man. So being that there's a territory system and whatnot, like I wanted to first off go places and defend this thing and use that as an opportunity to spotlight eyes on other promotions. Because a lot of people didn't realize, but whenever I'd have a title defense, NWA was retweeting it. It didn't matter what indie promotion I was at or where I was at. So it's like we're putting spotlights on these promotions and stuff like that. And like you find talent that way. Um, I was consistently putting out content. I did the local Erie Comic Con as a guest there. I brought it to OHL hockey game. Like I just wanted to build it and give it the rightful attention it deserves, so that when the next person gets it, they have an easier path and like people know how prestigious this truly is and supposed to be.
Do you have a favorite defense?
I've never thought about it. That's a good question. Um, I'd say one of my very first defense was actually in Pittsburgh for 880 Wrestling versus Gannon Jones Jr., who is a ridiculous undervalued talent. He's about 6'5" and crazy athletic. Like this guy does the Whisper in the Wind just as good as Jen Hardy. And he's part of a tag team called TME with Duke Davis. So like my thing is I've always wanted to bring other people up with me, not just me have those moments. So getting the opportunity to wrestle him in his local crowd for like the title, I think was pretty dope. Um, I enjoy going to Canada, defending it at NCCW. Um, we got some Exodus guys in Jersey for BCW. Uh, I went out. I brought it out when I went to Emerge. Like I'd have to look at the list, but like I kind of just went everywhere I could. I even brought
Yeah,
it to Michigan, which was nice. So I appreciate and value all those promotions that allowed me to do that. And I think all those defenses, all 20 of them essentially mattered and helped build it to what it is today.
definitely. We are on the cusp of When in Rome 2,
Yeah.
when yourself and Calvin Tankman will go at it again. What can we expect out of you two big men?
A horse fight. The first time I wrestled Calvin was at a GCW show and he beat me. And then I wrestled him again in Canada, but it was like an elimination match. So even though I won that, I wouldn't consider that a real win. So this is a match that I'm a completely different wrestler. I have more size, I have more experience, and we're in my essentially hometown promotion at this point. So I have to go out there and improve myself. I like to call myself the most dominant big man in professional wrestling. Well, I can't be that unless I beat a Calvin Tankman, and I feel good about that. I've defended that title against Donovan Dijak, Myron Reed. Like I've worked against a lot of these top guys, and like all roads lead to another dominant big man. So we'll see what happens.
Also, something you are scheduled to appear for, also for the NWA, is Hard Times.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what could possibly be in store for us come Hard Times?
I don't. Honestly, I do not. Like you'll find out when I find out. But I will say this. I'm from New York, but both my parents were born and raised in Alabama. And my mom is going to fly out to this show, which is awesome.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, like she hasn't gotten to see me wrestle live that many times, like maybe twice. No, three times. But being able to see me wrestle live for a major promotion in like her home state, like that means something to me. Like it shows her just how far like I've came from the night sleeping in my car trying to drive here to train or whatever to me getting flown to shows now, making real good money and doing my thing. So like that's what I'm most excited for.
Okay. What would you say are like your goals for the rest of this year?
Um, work on my mental health. I'll definitely put that on the forefront because I tend to be like I'm like a grinder, you know what I mean? Like I just keep going. Like I don't ever stop to
I
think. And
understand.
it doesn't mean, yeah, I mean like even if I take 5 minutes to start meditating again or take cold showers and stuff like I should be doing. Like just something to get my mind right and away from like I want to live in my own bubble to a degree where whatever I need to do in my peace of mind, like I have that done and I'm not affected by the external factors. I also want to stay healthy because a lot of wrestlers don't think about stuff like that. Professional wrestling takes a toll on your body. So I'm trying to implement strategies, whether it's going to the chiropractor or going to hot yoga, things like that, just to make sure like I stay healthy throughout the year. Um, I want to build the Killionaires, which is my tag team with Jay Bougie and Kim Broadway. We're actually wrestling at ETU in New Jersey this Sunday in their tag team tournament. So hopefully we become their first ever tag team champions. Um, and I really want to see where NWA takes me. Right now I'm still unsigned, but who knows if that changes. I just want to make the most of my opportunities and prove to everyone I'm the star that I believe I am.
Do you think we could see any Pretty Boy Smooth in the Midwest? Maybe up in that Chicago area?
Oh, I would love to be in Chicago. If you can get some promoters that you want me to reach out to or reach out to me, I'd love to go out there. I haven't been out there in a while. Like I did freelance underground a very long time ago. And then I used to do Glory Pro out in Missouri. But yeah, I would love to get back out that way. I was actually scheduled for Black Label Pro before they went on hiatus. So who knows if that will come back around. So
Okay.
um, I've done a lot of stuff in like Indiana, like Michigan, those places. So I would love to get back up to like the Chicago area for sure.
Maybe I can shoot you a couple promotions. Maybe we can get you out here.
Absolutely, I would love that.
One more question, just to see the inner fan in you. Um, if you could wrestle anybody on the planet, dead or alive, who would your dream match be?
That changes a lot, to be honest with you. And the answers I would give you, I doubt you'd be expecting them.
Okay,
Like, I was a big fan of Tommy End before he became Aleister Black,
okay.
which I mean, he's still dope, but I was like I used to go back and watch like his indie matches and stuff. Like I thought he was sick.
So you'd want Tommy End version of Aleister Black.
Yeah. And
Okay,
I really would, and I'm a big fan of Pete Dunne.
okay.
And I don't work anything like them. Like that is not my style at all. But I feel like styles clashes is what makes professional wrestling good. But I think those guys are absolutely awesome. Um, my normal answer is like I'll work anybody I can learn from that I can have a good match with because that's really how I look at it. Kind of like some other favorite wrestlers are like Jake something, and I got to wrestle him. Byron Reed, and I got to wrestle him. But those are the only two I can think of right now that I'd be like, yeah, like that'd be kind of dope for me anyway. I don't know if the fans want to see that, but I would want to see it.
Sounds good. Bet. Um, Thank you so much, man. This was a great time. Maybe at the end of the year, maybe beginning of next year, you think we could get an update?
Absolutely, that'd be
Sounds
dope.
good.
Just reach out to me.
Of course. I will I'll leave this out for see you later then. How's that?
Absolutely. I see you soon.